Welcome to Soul Inspired Leadership's latest podcast. And today, my guest is Dr. Adam Harrison. Now, Adam is a family doctor, medical educator, qualified lawyer, and ex-medical director, and now certified life leadership and executive coach, who, because of his personal experience, specialises in life, career, and leadership coaching and mentoring of doctors of all ages, grades, and specialities. As a doctor and ex-medical leader, he has experienced firsthand the consequences of working within poorly led environments, and this has fueled his passion to work as an executive coach with medical leaders and healthcare executives to enable them to promote positive cultures within their immediate teams and wider organisation. He also feels very strongly about helping individual doctors suffering from the consequences of working in toxic workplaces, his mission being to help them develop the skills needed to successfully deal with their situation so they can be happier and more successful at work. And given the current COVID environment the world's been the last 18 months, at least, that I can imagine the stress-related toxic environments within the hospital systems around the world, because the pressure would be enormous to perform. So welcome, Adam, to our podcast. And I know when I first saw Adam, he was being interviewed on another show, I could say. And I thought, yeah, this man has got passion he's got a belief in what he's doing, and he has a passion to help doctors become better leaders of people. And so sort of lowering the toxicity, can't even say the word now, the toxic environments within the hospital systems. And given the pressure there, yes, they can be quite quite toxic. So Adam, tell me, you've said you've experienced quite a this yourself. What's the one standout thing that really resonates with you from your experience?
Well, hi, Ross. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really, really grateful. Really kind of you. It's a real honor. So, in terms of being on the receiving end of toxicity in the healthcare workplace, there are almost too many incidents to kind of pick one out, to be honest with you. They're in double figures for sure. It kind of started when I was a junior surgical trainee, and it kind of happened to me in every single job. In those days, we would move on every 6 months. And yeah, every time I worked in a new department with a new set of bosses, there was some kind of, unkind treatment towards me and, the other trainees.
Yeah.
But sometimes, individuals were singled out. And I thought it was perhaps something to do with working in the surgical environment. But then I moved into family medicine and, there were same sorts of problems there. And I just began to realize that it seems to be a consequence of doctors not being trained in leadership at medical school. These positions of responsibility are thrust upon them, both for their medical juniors, their trainees, their medical students, other staff they work with. Even if they're not the direct line manager of like the nurses they work with, they're still looked to for a bit of a steer and a lead by these colleagues, and they can be, really unkind and unpleasant to some of them. And just in answer to your question, the standout one for me probably was when I was working in cardiothoracics, and I was working for a cardiac surgeon who basically didn't like something that I had done on a drug chart, and that must have been the thing that just kind of tipped him over the edge in the middle of a ward round, in a bay with 4 patient beds, all of which were occupied, on a round with about 10 colleagues, all, you can imagine those ward rounds where you've got the consultant walking ahead with all
they all wander along
behind. All the ducklings behind.
All the ducklings, that's it.
And he just kind of like looked at this drug chart and said, who prescribed this, and all of us juniors looked at the drug chart, and I said, oh yeah, that's my writing. And then he just let me have it with both barrels in front of everyone, patients, nurses, medical colleagues, and everyone just stood by while he just bawled me out. And I don't know if people were, afraid of speaking up or whatever it was, but no one. It was a complete bystander effect. Everyone was just kind of like watching and not doing anything.
Feeling very uneasy and
yeah, I'm sure they were. But this was in the early 2000s, and there was no even movement towards a culture of speaking out and calling things out. So it's like the word of the consultant was law. They were God in their own minds anyway. It's happened to me a lot of times, and I've worked with a lot of medical students and doctors who it's happened to as well. It's just hit me in the last year or so that I need to do something about it.
Yeah, well, and that's what I admire you for, because one, you're quite happy to talk about it, and in a sense, and I can hear it in your voice, really, that you still have an emotional attachment to it. You've let it go, but you emotionally still you can still remember that feeling very, 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 very strongly. I would expect, and that's what we're talking about before the show, is that the cost of that. See, and that's not just a situation that only happens in hospitals with doctors. This happens throughout all working life, and there'll be a lot of people putting their hand up. Yeah, that's happened to me, and I've had quite a few clients or people I've been asked to, can I go and help this person with remedial training, which is because they're bawling out too many people, and see the cost of that. Because some people like doing it. Yeah. Like they want to show that they're the authority and they're the one with all the knowledge. And I suspect that may be like that, right? Could be other reasons, but I've got the knowledge, I've got the authority, so I'm going to tell the world, listen to me, I'm the one who knows what he's doing or she's doing. But the cost of that, while you're there, your contribution to the hospital, wherever you were for the rest of the day, is very limited, because you're mentally now shattered trying to work out how to get over that. Then all the people around you would be the same thing. They'll be thinking, I hope I'm not next. I cannot make a mistake. So therefore they don't do anything because they're not afraid to make a mistake. So it's walking on eggshells, so to speak. So they're not working either. So their mind is sitting in there in that sort of, to me, that dark space. So that the cost of the hospital, what they're paying a whole pile of entourage, you collectively add that up and you think, man, that one little outburst has cost the hospital XYZ pounds. It's just, and if you quantify that every day with all the events across company, it's horrendous. It's just all for the sake of, I want my ego to tell the world that I'm the one who knows everything here.
Yeah.
No, so I've passionately got on my soapbox then.
I will gladly join you on your soapbox. You're 100% correct. I completely agree. So there was a paper written by Pearson and Porath in the Harvard Business Review that was published in 2013. There was actually just about incivility in the workplace. So, rude, kind of low-level hostile behaviour, discourtesy. In the workplace, they looked at over 800 personnel across 17 industries. So it's a pretty wide-reaching study. And what they found was that that people on the receiving end of just incivility, so not even like a massive shouting out or being put down,
massive bollocking.
Exactly. Exactly. Not even something like a volcanic eruption from your manager, but just kind of uncivil and discourteous treatment. that of those who experienced that, 48% of them reduced their work effort. 78% of them said it impaired their loyalty to the organization.
Yeah.
And 25% of them, 25% actually took out their frustrations on customers.
Yeah.
So as you say, there's and that's just the people who were in the direct firing line. And as you say, all of the bystanders, and there are studies that demonstrate this as well, would all have been distracted by what happened. And exactly as you say, am I next? I can't speak up because am I going to be the next one in the firing line? And there's this thing in medicine as well. And it was evident when I qualified in the year 2000, and it still seems to be the case now, that you're only as good as your last reference. And because you're looking to move on every 6 months or every 2 years or whatever it happens to be in your case, you're very much reliant on getting good references to get your next position. And if you pee someone off, they're going to withhold that reference, or they're going to withhold a glowing reference. It's just going to be the whatever they can get away with.
Adam worked here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He worked here from this date to this date. So there's a lot of understandable fear as to why people won't speak up and call out that kind of bad behavior. And as you say, it's massively costly. So, not necessarily in healthcare, but that study was across all those industries. As you say, they're paying someone to be at work who is completely distracted for the rest of that day. So really, they're just demonstrating presenteeism. They're just there, but they're not doing anything.
That's right. They'll just do whatever they need to do to not bring any attention to themselves.
Just keep their head down, isn't it?
Keep their head under the radar. The least amount of work to keep.
Exactly. They've had one rollicking that day. They don't need another one. They
might be just a day. It'll last days.
Well, exactly. Then there's the observers who are affected, but to a lesser extent, but there's still a level of distraction there. And then there's those 25% of people who take out their frustrations on customers and clients, and that's another unknown cost, isn't it?
How do you quantify that one? Right.
Yeah, they're not going to come back and be repeat business, are they? So
that's right.
It's just it's so frustrating, isn't it? Because it's so short-sighted that a lot of companies are not acknowledging this and seeing it and acting on it.
Do you hit it on the head though? You said that, like in doctors, really, you're putting in a stressful situation. To me, that they'll probably put on a pedestals because they're the senior people. They're the one everyone teaches, but they've never been taught leadership, and that's the industry worldwide. And there's far more focus now on teaching people leadership. And I personally believe we should be teaching people self-leadership in school to understand all those dynamics of what we're just talking about, the impact on other people, all those sorts of things. As a leader of self, you start to be aware of what the impact of your behavior has. And if you taught that at a young age, the time you get to the working place, it's okay. You're quite familiar, and you're reflecting, and you're trying to improve those skills. Where I suspect the person who gave you bollocking has never once thought about that. I just blast out because that's what I do. It's never been a conscious thought, probably. May have had
absolutely.
Been. It's scarier.
No, I completely agree. And I think that some of them of an, I don't want to sound ageist here, but of an older generation, there is more of this kind of stuff coming through in the younger doctors and other professionals. But some of the really kind of senior, kind of pre-retirement ones, they're probably, it was just never ever a thing, and you've really touched on something that is another one of my aims, but it's a bold aim. Is actually to try and get leadership teaching, and your suggestion is amazing, self-leadership and that self-awareness, that kind of emotional intelligence side of things, the empathy, and insight, teaching people how to like kind of pick up on things in themselves, to get that into at least into university courses, all university
at
courses,
least. That's right.
not high school and even younger, but
the earlier you do it, the better. But I know at least in
yeah.
high school situation or at the university, but
Yeah.
not just as a subject. See, the trouble is, it's just that's in another elective.
Yeah,
Many points, credit points. I'll just stick with all
yeah,
the medical stuff. I'll do that. But that's why I have my rest for our lecture. It should be embedded into all the lectures, like as a consequence of what we're teaching you here. Now, let's look at the self-leadership aspects of that information. And what to do with it, like that. To me, that then you're starting to go, now I get it.
Yeah,
it's separate. It is inculcated into your life, right? So everything you learn should be from that perspective. That's what I'm saying.
That's a tremendous idea. Looking at everything from a holistic aspect. You're learning your neuroscience and your cardiology and whatever, and it's like, okay, so let's talk about an interaction between colleagues or an interaction between, you're going to need to work with a nurse on this one. You're going to need to work with a patient. How can you demonstrate self-leadership that's going to impact positively upon your interactions and then the outcome for the patients, and obviously that crosses the different industries as well. But no, that's tremendous. I mean, I was thinking, if at university, in all courses, I mean, we know that graduates are more likely to go on to be in positions of authority, just by virtue of having that more education behind them. So it doesn't matter whether they're doing a history degree or a physics degree or a medical degree.
That's right.
They should all have some leadership stuff.
Should all be there. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you say, rather than it being, just taught didactically, another academic session, this one's on leadership. It's like, make it living, breathing leadership teaching, and demonstrated at all times by their leaders, by their tutors, by their professors, because this is the main thing within medicine, is that it's just a lot of modeling goes on, So I'll give you an example. And I was tutoring Indigenous students in Australia, medical students. And I was tutoring one who was based in Adelaide at Flinders University Medical School. And she was on a surgical team, attached to a surgical team, a final year medical student. And one of the middle grade doctors, one of the trainee doctors, said to her one day, "Oi, girl medical student, go and take blood from this patient." So, she was telling me this story, and I said, "Wow." I said, I've experienced a lot, but that was pretty shameless. He's a real piece of work, isn't he, to say that to you? And she said, "It wasn't a he, it was a she." I said, "Hold it, let me get this right." So a female surgical doctor, middle grade, coming up to being a consultant in a few years, said that to a female medical student. She said, yeah. And I was like, working through this in my mind. And the problem is that certainly in Australia, in my experience, there are a lot of white male consultant surgeons. And if you're not taught leadership, if you're not taught compassionate leadership, servant leadership, inclusive leadership, all of these fantastic leadership models and styles at medical school, in fact, you're not taught anything about leadership. Where are you going to learn it? You're going to learn it by looking at your leaders, and you model on their behavior.
That's exactly right.
So as I said, what she's doing, this surgical doctor, is she's thinking, I want to get to where he is. I want to be him in 5 years' time or whatever. So to get to where he is, I've got to behave like him.
So I've got to show that I can do that too, because that's the leadership that I see.
That's exactly. And
it just goes on and on, right? So
Yeah.
it's really good for then that student to be talking about it, because in talking about the rationalizing, that's not probably a good thing. Because that previous doctor probably thought the same maybe several years ago when it happened to her,
Yeah.
But, oh, well, when I get there, I'll do the same. That's what
Yeah.
tends to happen.
Absolutely. Some people are like, well, I had to go through it, so I'm going to
You've got
make
to
all
go,
the
yeah,
other poor.
this is part of the apprenticeship.
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
you've got to do under your apprenticeship. You've got to
Yeah.
wear all
Yeah.
these things. Yeah. And that's a good point, Adam, because it's just, you need to stop that cycle.
Yeah.
And to me, we've got to start with younger people and then get them to be talking about it, get them to understand that it's leader of self, understand your impact on others, because to get the best out of others, that's what you want. Because if you've got a hospital or any organisation, one of the first factors is when they're under pressure, we need more staff, right? So to me, when I used to have people reporting to me, it's like, well, let's see, are the staff that you've got effective? Because I'm not adding 2 more people, I'm putting a Band-Aid on a problem, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see if they're all effective. Are they producing to their maximum? If they are, then you can have more staff. So, but I'm not throwing people, like you're not throwing people to the team because the leader is not a good leader, because the manager, well, I say manager, not a leader, the manager is not a good leader of people. So therefore, and there again, that's another cost, because you're adding staff because the team can't do it, because they're all working, as you said, they're part of the 48% who said they've dropped the bundle a bit.
Yeah.
And the other 70% is not loyal. Like, so their effort's not there. So therefore, that's another cost to the company. It just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm back on my soapbox. We could be on the bloody soapbox together.
Get over to the UK. We'll go to Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park.
I'll Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park. So if I ever get up to Nottingham where you are, and as I said, we might stop at the pub there and just near Trent Bridge, and we can have a beer and whinge about it, right?
Totally.
Look, anyway, on that note, I'd like to thank you, Adam, for being a guest on our show, and I'm sure we'll have you back at some point, because we could be talking for quite a while yet, I'm sure.
That'd be great.
But we'll start with this podcast, and so thanks everyone for listening today with Dr. Adam Harrison, and we welcome you back to our next show, our next podcast, probably in a couple of weeks. So thank you for listening.
Thanks for having me, Ross.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.